Okay, get ready for this. What if I told you a company went from absolutely zero to a $2 billion a year business in just over 2 years? It sounds impossible, right? Well, that's the real story of OpenAI and its chatbot, ChatGPT. We are about to dive into one of the most explosive, most unconventional growth stories in the history of business. So let's just start with the number. Let it sink in. $2 billion. That's the annual revenue run rate that OpenAI hit back in December. And just to be crystal clear, that's not some fluffy valuation. That is cold, hard cash flowing into the company. Almost all of it from one single product, ChatGPT. We throw the word fast around a lot in tech, but this is on another level. This is historically, unbelievably fast. No other software company, not the ones you're thinking of, not the giants, has ever hit this milestone at this kind of speed. It literally rewrites the rulebook for how fast a company can scale. I mean, just look at this chart. It puts the whole thing into perspective. OpenAI did this in 25 months. It took Salesforce, an absolute titan of the industry, more than 8 years to do the same thing. That's almost 4 times faster. Slack? A full decade. Zoom? Over 12 years. And ChatGPT did it in a little over 2. It's just staggering. So the big question is, how? How is this even possible? It almost feels like it defies financial gravity. So let's pull back the curtain and break down exactly where that $2 billion is coming from. Now, this chart is fascinating because it tells a story you might not expect. You'd probably guess it's all about massive corporate contracts, right? Nope, not even close. Just look at that huge slice. A staggering 80% of OpenAI's revenue comes directly from individual people paying for ChatGPT Plus. And this is the engine driving the whole thing. We're talking about more than 10 million people, regular users paying just $20 a month. You do the math on that, that single consumer product is bringing in around $1.6 billion a year. It's an enormous direct-to-consumer business, all built on a simple subscription. And this, for me, is the most revolutionary part of this whole story. This isn't about an army of salespeople in suits closing huge multi-million-dollar deals. It's a story about millions of regular people, students, writers, developers, all kinds of professionals, finding so much day-to-day value in a tool that they willingly pull out their credit card for it every single month. All right, so the second piece of the puzzle is ChatGPT Enterprise. This makes up about 15% of their revenue. You've got over 260,000 companies that signed up for this premium tier because, well, they need the extra security, privacy, and control that the consumer version just can't offer. And that piece adds another, say, $300 to $500 million to the total. And finally, we've got the smallest slice, about 5%, coming from their API. This is where you have thousands of developers paying to plug OpenAI's powerful AI models directly into their own apps and services. It's a smaller piece of the pie for now, but it represents this massive, growing ecosystem that's being built on top of their core technology. Okay, so we know where the money comes from, but the way they did it, that's the real holy shit moment. Seriously, it flies in the face of everything we thought we knew about building a billion-dollar software business. Think about this for a second. Companies like Salesforce built their empires with thousands of salespeople. OpenAI had practically none. They spent next to nothing on marketing. And unlike a social media app, there are no network effects, meaning the tool doesn't get better for you just because your friends are using it. This growth was almost entirely organic. It was pure word of mouth, driven by one simple fact. The tool was just that useful to basically everyone. This timeline just hammers home the sheer velocity. In November 2022, they were making zero. Just 9 months later, they hit a $1 billion run rate. Then, and this is the unbelievable part, only 16 months after that, they doubled it to $2 billion. From nothing to a multi-billion-dollar business in 25 months. The speed is just, it's hard to wrap your head around. So look, this is way more than just one company's success story. A milestone like this sends massive ripple effects through the entire tech industry, and honestly, it has direct implications for all of us. For years and years, AI was seen as this fascinating but incredibly expensive research project. It was kept alive by venture capital and investor hype. OpenAI's success proves that era is over. AI is now one of the most viable and profitable business sectors in the world, and it's being driven not by hype, but by real people paying for real value. And this wasn't an accident. It wasn't a fluke. As their CEO, Sam Altman, said himself, this was the goal the whole time. They're deliberately building a sustainable business. They're proving that this incredibly powerful AI can be a commercial success, not just a science experiment. So, what does this actually mean for you? Well, first off, the era of the most powerful AI being totally free is probably coming to an end. The best stuff is now officially a paid service. This also means that learning how to use these tools effectively is becoming an incredibly valuable professional skill. We're basically seeing that your personal productivity, it now has a clear monthly price tag attached to it. So if $2 billion is just the beginning, where do we go from here? What's next? Let's take a look at what the experts are predicting and what the road ahead looks like for OpenAI and for the entire AI industry. According to industry analysts, this insane growth is probably going to continue at a blistering pace. In a realistic scenario, we could see revenues doubling again to maybe $4 billion by 2025, hitting over $10 billion by 2027, and potentially reaching a mind-boggling $20 to $30 billion by the end of the decade. So how do they get there? Well, this future growth is likely going to be fueled by four key things: continuing to add millions and millions of new users, rapidly expanding their enterprise business, launching and, of course, monetizing incredible new products like that Sora video model, and just growing their developer ecosystem. But let's be real, it's not going to be an easy ride. They're facing intense competition from giants like Google, innovative startups like Anthropic, you name it. On top of that, they've got to navigate some major hurdles, like potential government regulation, the ridiculously high cost of computing power, and eventually just the market getting saturated. And all of this leads to one final massive question. We just saw them go from 0 to 2 billion in 2 years. With that kind of trajectory and that level of ambition, is it actually possible that they could become a $50 billion company by 2030? That's the scale we're talking about now, and it's a future that's literally being written as we speak.